Professor Kril'va stood at the front of Lecture Hall 7, all four of his manipulator arms gesturing wildly as he spoke. His chitinous faceplates clicked together in what passed for a condescending smile among his people. The Zephyrian academic had built a career spanning 17 star systems on one simple premise. He was always right. And today he was right about humans. "Now class," he announced, his voice carrying that particular tone of superiority that made students want to throw their datapads at him. "We come to perhaps the most overrated species in the entire galactic community. Humans." He pulled up a holographic image of a human skeleton, rotating it slowly with one claw. "Look at this. Truly, look at it. Single structural support column, no redundant systems, no exoskeleton, no subdermal armor plating. Their bones, and I cannot stress this enough, are hollow." "They are not hollow, Professor," a voice called from the back row. Kril'va's eye stalks swiveled toward the source. There, in the last row, sat the exchange student, Rebecca Dawson, human, female. Approximately 5 feet and 7 inches of what Kril'va considered to be biological mediocrity wrapped in a college hoodie. She had been taking notes quietly for the past 3 weeks, never causing trouble, never speaking up, until now. "Excuse me?" Kril'va said, each syllable dripping with theatrical offense. "Human bones are not hollow," Rebecca repeated, not looking up from her datapad. "You are thinking of birds. Earth birds, different species entirely." A few students in the middle rows made sounds that might have been laughter, quickly stifled. Kril'va's faceplates clicked rapidly, a sign of irritation among his kind. "Semantics," he waved a claw dismissively. "The point stands. Humans are fragile, soft, slow. Your people move at speeds that would embarrass a Quellon sloth. Your reaction times are adequate at best, and your physical strength," he made a sound like air escaping from a punctured container, "pitiful. Absolutely pitiful." "Interesting theory," Rebecca said, still writing. Kril'va felt his authority being questioned, and he did not appreciate it. Not one bit. He had not become the head of the Xenobiology department by tolerating backtalk from students, especially not from the very species he was currently using as an example of evolutionary failure. "Theory?" He clicked his mandibles together sharply. "My dear student, these are established facts. Peer-reviewed, published in the Galactic Journal of Xenobiology. I wrote the paper myself." "I read it," Rebecca said, finally looking up. Her face was completely neutral, which somehow made it worse. It had some interesting conclusions. The way she said interesting made it sound like she might have used a different word if she were not sitting in his classroom. Kril'va felt his temperature rising. Several students were now openly watching the exchange, their own note-taking forgotten. "Perhaps," Kril'va said, his voice taking on a sharp edge, "you would like to provide a counter-argument, or better yet, a demonstration." He gestured broadly at the laboratory section of the hall. "We have equipment, measuring devices, several test subjects. Please, do enlighten us all about human physical superiority." He said the last word like it was a joke, because it was, obviously. Rebecca closed her datapad with a soft click. She looked at Kril'va for a long moment, her face still maddeningly neutral. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the kind of smile that should have warned him, if he had bothered to study human facial expressions as thoroughly as he claimed to have studied human physiology. "Sure," she said simply. "What did you have in mind?" Around the lecture hall, students shifted in their seats. Evrin in the third row leaned forward, suddenly very interested. 2 Plixians in the front exchanged glances, their antennae twitching with anticipation. Everyone could sense it. Something was about to happen. Kril'va had just made a terrible mistake. He just did not know it yet. Lecture Hall 7 was not your standard academic space. Most universities kept their specimens in jars, safely preserved and thoroughly dead. The Galactic Academic Institute, however, believed in a more hands-on approach, which was a polite way of saying that half the classroom was a barely controlled zoo of things that could kill you. The left side of the hall was divided into a series of containment zones, each one separated by shimmering force fields that hummed with enough energy to stop a charging Graxian battle tank. Environmental pods lined the walls, each one maintaining the specific atmosphere, gravity, and temperature required to keep their occupants alive and, theoretically, calm. Theoretically being the key word. Kril'va led Rebecca down the stairs toward the laboratory section, his arms sweeping dramatically as he walked. The rest of the class followed, datapads ready, sensing that this was going to be far more entertaining than his usual lectures about cellular mitochondria. "Here," Kril'va announced, stopping in front of the first containment field, "we have a Thoraxian render." The creature inside looked like someone had taken a spider, made it the size of a large dog, and then given it anger management issues. 8 legs, each ending in serrated claws, supported a segmented body covered in mottled gray chitin. Its multiple eyes tracked their movement with unsettling focus. As if on cue, it reared back and spat a glob of greenish fluid at the force field. The acid sizzled against the barrier, leaving streaks that slowly evaporated. "Charming personality," Rebecca observed. "The render can spit that acid accurately up to 20 meters. Kril'va continued, ignoring her comment. "It can also lift approximately 10 times its own body weight, and has reflexes fast enough to snatch flying prey mid-air. From its home world of Thorax Prime, gravity 1.3 times standard." Rebecca leaned closer to the field, studying the creature's leg joints, hydraulic muscle system. "What? Oh yes, partially," Kril'va said, slightly thrown off by the technical question. He had expected her to be intimidated, not curious. He moved on quickly. The next pod contained something that looked less like an animal and more like a nightmare someone had forgotten to wake up from. The Quellon serpent stretched nearly 12 feet from its blunt head to its tapered tail, its body thick as a grown man's thigh. Scales the color of tarnished copper covered every inch of it, overlapping in patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. Its mouth, currently closed, was rumored to contain enough fangs to open a dental supply store. "The Quellon serpent," Kril'va said, warming to his subject. "Pure muscle. No bones whatsoever. It kills by constriction, generating pressure equivalent to a hydraulic press." One documented case showed a Quellon crushing a starship maintenance robot. Solid titanium alloy, crushed it flat. "What is the muscle fiber density?" Rebecca asked, tilting her head. Kril'va blinked. "The what?" "The muscle fiber density, per cubic centimeter, approximately. That is hardly relevant to—" "Just curious," Rebecca said with a shrug. Kril'va's face plates clicked in irritation. This was not going as planned. She was supposed to be frightened, not asking technical questions like some kind of student. He moved on to his prize specimen, determined to get the reaction he wanted. "And here," he said, his voice dropping to what he probably thought was an impressive register, "we have the crown jewel of our collection. Behold, a fully mature Krathax apex hunter." Even Rebecca had to admit. It was impressive. The creature stood 7 feet tall at the shoulder, built like something evolution had designed specifically to ruin your day. Its body was covered in overlapping plates of natural armor, dark gray and scarred from what were probably territorial disputes. 4 legs, each as thick as tree trunks, ended in paws the size of dinner plates, and the claws. Good Lord, the claws. Each one looked like it had been carved from obsidian, curved and wickedly sharp. The Krathax head was massive, broad and wedge-shaped, with a mouth that could probably fit a whole person inside if it felt particularly ambitious. Right now, thankfully, it was sedated, lying on its side in a containment pod that had been reinforced with 3 separate layers of force fields. "The Krathax," Kril'va announced, "comes from a world with gravity twice the galactic standard. It weighs approximately 800 pounds. Those claws can shred through starship hull plating. Its bite force has been measured at over 3,000 pounds per square inch. It is, without question, one of the most dangerous land predators in known space." He turned to Rebecca, his faceplates arranged in what he thought was a knowing expression. "And this, Miss Dawson, is the weakest of our specimens. The juvenile, if you will. An adult can weigh up to 1,500 pounds. Rebecca walked closer to the containment field, studying the sedated predator with the same calm expression she had worn all class. "What is its skeletal composition? Carbon-based? Silicon hybrid?" Kril'va stared at her. "You are asking about bone structure while looking at something that could tear you apart." "Well, it is sedated," Rebecca pointed out reasonably. "Seems like a good time to learn." Kril'va made a sound like a kettle whistling. The human was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. He was leaning toward stupid. "The point, Miss Dawson, is that any of these creatures could easily overpower a human. Your species, for all your unearned confidence, would not last 30 seconds against even the render. Your strength is inadequate. Your speed is inadequate. Your physical capabilities are across the board inadequate. Rebecca nodded slowly, still looking at the Krathax. So you want me to demonstrate human strength against one of these? I want you to understand your limitations, Kril'va corrected. But yes, if you feel confident enough to embarrass yourself, be my guest. Okay, Rebecca said simply. Which one? From the middle rows, a sound like rocks tumbling down a mountain echoed through the hall. It was laughter. Specifically, it was Thorok laughing. The Vryn was built like someone had decided to make a person out of concrete and bad decisions. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, with arms thick enough to be classified as load-bearing columns, Thorok represented the warrior caste of his species. His people had evolved on a high-gravity world where the primary survival strategy was to be bigger and meaner than everything else. It had worked quite well for them. Professor Thorok rumbled, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. Perhaps we should start smaller. There is a Plixian grub in pod 12, maybe 20 pounds. Very docile. The human could try lifting that. The class erupted. Students of various species made sounds that ranged from chittering to whistling to what might have been snorting, all of which translated to the universal language of laughter at someone else's expense. A few of them were already recording on their data pads, anticipating something worth sharing on the Galactic net. Rebecca, for her part, said nothing. She simply rolled her shoulders back, first one, then the other. Then she tilted her head to the left until something in her neck made a soft popping sound, then to the right. She bent forward slightly, touching her toes, then straightened up and twisted at the waist. The aliens watched this ritual with confusion. They had no idea they were watching a human warm-up. To them it looked like she was having some kind of mechanical malfunction. Kril'va, sensing his moment of ultimate victory approaching, held up one claw for silence. The laughter died down. He turned to Rebecca with all 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of magnanimous offering. "Miss Dawson," he said, his voice dripping with false sympathy, "I am going to give you a choice. Right here, right now. You can admit that human physical capabilities are, as I have stated, limited, inferior, adequate for your evolutionary niche, but nothing special. You can sit back down, take notes like a proper student, and we can all move on with our lives. No shame in admitting facts." He paused, letting that sink in. Or, he continued, his eyes gleaming with the light of someone about to make a point so devastating it would be cited in textbooks. "You can attempt to prove me wrong. Choose any specimen in this laboratory, any creature you like. Attempt to demonstrate this supposed human strength, and when you fail, as you inevitably will, perhaps you and your entire species will learn a valuable lesson about humility." The room had gone completely silent. Even the Thoraxian render had stopped spitting acid, as if it too wanted to see what would happen next. Rebecca looked at Kril'va for a long moment. Then she looked at the various containment pods, then back at Kril'va. Her expression had not changed at all. It was still that same calm, neutral, almost bored look she had worn since the start of class. "Which one do you want me to lift?" she asked, her voice perfectly level. Kril'va felt a surge of triumph. She had taken the bait. He was about to witness the perfect teaching moment. This would be the pinnacle of his career. He would write a paper about this. No, a book. He would call it The Folly of Human Arrogance. A case study. "The Krathax," he said, pointing with one claw at the massive predator sleeping behind its triple-layered force fields. "Lift the Krathax, Apex Hunter." The silence that followed was the kind of silence that occurs when everyone in a room simultaneously realizes they might be about to witness either something incredible or something horrible, possibly both. Thorok stopped laughing. His expression shifted from amused to concerned, which was notable because Vryn warrior caste were not known for their capacity for concern. "Professor," he said slowly, "that creature weighs 800 pounds. 807 to be precise," Kril'va corrected smugly. "It is sedated, yes, but still." "Still what?" Kril'va challenged. "Too heavy for a human. That is precisely my point, Thorok. Thank you for making it for me." Rebecca walked toward the Krathax containment pod. She moved with the easy, loose-limbed gait of someone heading to perform a routine task, like she was going to check her mail or pick up groceries, not like she was approaching 800 pounds of apex predator. Kril'va watched her go, already composing the opening paragraph of his paper in his head. On the afternoon of standard date 7743.2, a human student, in a display of species-typical overconfidence, attempted to, "Hey, Professor," Rebecca called back. "Yes, Miss Dawson?" "Just to be clear," she said, standing in front of the containment field. "You want me to lift it? Like off the ground?" "If you can manage even an inch, I will be impressed," Kril'va said generously. He would not be impressed. It was impossible. "Cool," Rebecca said. "Just checking." She cracked her knuckles. 17 species with 17 different auditory systems all heard that sound, and through some universal quirk of biology all recognized it as the sound of someone about to do something inadvisable. Kril'va smiled with his mandibles. This was going to be perfect. Rebecca walked up to the containment field like she was approaching the milk section at a supermarket. Casual, unhurried, completely unbothered by the fact that she was standing 3 feet away from something that evolution had specifically designed to kill things. "Hey," she called to the teaching assistant, stationed near the control panel. "Can you drop the field?" Jex, a Plixian who stood about 4 feet tall and looked like a very anxious blue mushroom with arms, nearly dropped his datapad. His antenna shot straight up, which in Plixian body language translated roughly to "absolutely not. Are you insane?" That is, there are protocols," Jix stammered, his translator struggling to keep up with how fast he was talking. "Safety protocols. Multiple safety protocols. 17 distinct safety protocols, in fact, which must be followed in sequential order before any containment field can be." "I get it. Safety first," Rebecca interrupted gently. "I will sign whatever you need me to sign." Jix's antenna quivered.
Ew.
"There is a waiver. A liability waiver. Standard Form 7734B subsection Delta. It is quite comprehensive. 47 pages. You should read it thoroughly before." "Sure, where do I sign?" Jix pulled up a holographic document that was indeed quite long. Rebecca glanced at the first page, which was titled, "Acknowledgement of Potential Dismemberment and/or Death," scrolled immediately to the bottom and pressed her thumb to the signature field. From the front row, 2 Plixian students made sounds of pure horror. One of them actually clutched his chest. "You did not just sign a legal document without reading it. That was not how things worked. That was not how anything worked. Their entire species would need therapy after witnessing this casual disregard for proper procedure." Jax looked like he might faint, but his training won out. "Field, lowering now," he said weakly, pressing the controls. The shimmering barrier around the Krathax pod flickered and vanished with a soft hum. The sound of the force field powering down seemed unnaturally loud in the silent lecture hall. Kril'va, watching this unfold, felt the first stirring of something that might have been doubt. His ego, however, was having none of it. He had committed to this course of action. He would see it through. Besides, she was obviously going to fail. "Obviously." "Class," he announced loudly, his voice taking on a professorial tone.
"Observe what is about to happen."
Or rather, what is not about to happen. The human body, as I have explained, is limited by several critical factors. First, muscle fiber density. Humans have approximately 1,200 fibers per square millimeter of muscle tissue, compared to a Vrin at 1,800, or even a Plixian at 1,400. This is frankly pathetic. Rebecca, now inside the pod, walked around the sleeping Krathax like a mechanic examining a particularly tricky engine problem. She nudged one of its massive legs with her foot, testing the weight distribution. She looked at where its body met the ground, calculating angles. Kril'va continued, warming to his subject. Second, grip strength. Human hands are generalized tools, useful for fine manipulation but lacking in raw power. The average human can generate perhaps 90 pounds of grip force. Now consider that this creature weighs 800 pounds, and you begin to see the mathematical impossibility of leg day better pay off, Rebecca muttered to herself in English. Her translator picked it up and broadcast it to the class. 17 different species tried to parse the phrase leg day and came up completely blank. Was it a human ritual? A religious observance? A threat? Rebecca bent down, sliding her hands under the Krathax's bulk. She shifted her feet, adjusting her stance. Her legs were positioned shoulder-width apart, her back straight, her core engaged. To anyone who knew what they were looking at, It was textbook deadlift form. Nobody in the room knew what they were looking at. And finally, Kril'va said, his voice rising with confidence, "The human skeletal structure is simply not designed for—" "Does anyone want to record this?" Rebecca asked, glancing back at the class. 17 students immediately activated their recording devices, data pads, optical implants, neural recorders, and in one case an actual old-fashioned camera that one nostalgic Vryn had brought. All of them pointed at Rebecca. Thorok leaned forward in his seat, his massive hands gripping the desk in front of him. "This is either going to be glorious or tragic," he rumbled. "Or both," someone else muttered. Rebecca took a breath. Then another. She checked her footing one more time, made a minor adjustment, and wrapped her fingers more firmly into the Krathax's dense fur. Kril'va stopped talking. Despite himself, despite his certainty, despite everything, he found himself holding his breath. The entire lecture hall waited. Rebecca lifted. What happened next would be analyzed, frame by frame, by xenobiologists across 17 star systems for the next decade. Rebecca's fingers found purchase in the thick fur beneath the Krathax's armored plating. Her grip tightened. Her legs tensed, muscles coiling like springs ready to release. She took one breath, deep and controlled, filling her lungs completely. Then she held it. And then she lifted. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The Krathax remained where it was, 807 pounds of sedated apex predator resting on the floor of its containment pod. Kril'va felt vindication rushing toward him like a wave. Then the creature moved. Not a twitch, not a shift. It rose, smoothly, steadily, impossibly. Rebecca's legs straightened. Her back remained perfectly aligned, her core solid as starship bulkhead plating. The Krathax came up with her. First 1 inch, then 6 inches, then a foot. Its massive body cleared the ground entirely, all 4 of its legs hanging limp in the air, claws dangling uselessly. She did not stop at a foot. She kept going. 2 feet, 3 feet. She stood up fully, holding 800 pounds of biological weapons platform at her waist, like it was a piece of luggage she was checking for airport security. Her arms were locked, her breathing controlled, her face set in an expression of calm concentration. The lecture hall was so quiet you could have heard a molecule breathe. Then, because apparently Rebecca had woken up that morning and chosen violence, she bent her knees and dropped into a squat. A proper squat, a hips back, knees tracking over toes, depth just below parallel. She held the bottom position for a heartbeat. The Krathax still cradled in her arms, then drove back up through her heels. Her legs straightened. The weight rose with her. She did another one. Then another. She was repping out squats, with a creature that could eat half the class and still have room for dessert. The Krathax's head lolled slightly with each repetition, its breathing slow and regular, completely unaware that it had become gym equipment. Somewhere in the back row, a student whispered "holy shit" in his native language. His translator attempted to process this phrase into 17 different linguistic frameworks simultaneously. The device made a sound like a confused computer, then displayed error messages in 3 languages before giving up entirely, and just showing a string of question marks. Nobody noticed. Everyone was staring at Rebecca. On the 3rd squat, she paused at the top of the movement and glanced toward the recording devices. "Everyone got a good angle?" she asked conversationally, as if she were posing for a group photo and not holding something that weighed more than 3 Plixians stacked on top of each other. "Yes," Thorok managed to croak. His voice, usually a confident rumble, came out as barely a whisper. "Cool," Rebecca said. Then she did one more squat, because apparently she was not done making her point. Finally, after what felt like an eternity compressed into 15 seconds, she began to lower the Krathax back down. She bent at the knees and hips, controlling the descent with the same smooth precision she had used to lift it. The creature touched down on the pod floor with surprising gentleness, like she was setting down something fragile rather than something that could shred titanium. Rebecca straightened up, released her grip, and rolled her shoulders back. A slight sheen of perspiration had appeared on her forehead. That was it. That was the only indication that she had just done something physically demanding. "Not bad," she said, mostly to herself, "though honestly my gym back home has better weights. The bars are more balanced." She said it casually, like a restaurant review. like she was commenting on the weather, like she had not just shattered the fundamental understanding of human capabilities that Kril'va had spent his entire career building. She stepped out of the containment pod, nodded to Jix to raise the field again, and walked back toward her seat in the back row. Her gait was relaxed, easy, the walk of someone who had just completed a mildly interesting task and was now ready to move on with their day. Behind her, the Krathax continued sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that it had just participated in the most watched xenobiology demonstration in galactic history. The lecture hall remained frozen. 17 different species, each with their own evolutionary history, their own physical capabilities, their own understanding of what was and was not possible, all shared the same reaction. Absolute, complete, stunned silence. Except for the quiet whirring of recording devices, and one student's translator, which had rebooted itself and was now displaying the message, "Error reality.exe has stopped responding." Kril'va stood at the front of the classroom. His faceplates, which normally maintained a consistent greenish-gray color, had cycled through shades of purple, orange, pale white, and were now settling on a sickly yellow that did not exist anywhere in nature. All 4 of his arms hung limply at his sides. His eye stalks had retracted slightly into his head, an involuntary response his species had when confronted with something their brain could not process. His mandibles opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. His carefully constructed worldview, built over decades of research and publication, had just been picked up, squatted 4 times, and gently set back down by a 5'7" human in a college hoodie. Somewhere in his brain a very small voice was screaming. The silence shattered like a dropped datapad. Thorok, all 8 feet and several hundred pounds of Rin warrior, stood up on his desk. The furniture groaned under his weight but held. He raised both massive arms above his head, and bellowed something in his native tongue that his translator struggled with for a moment before rendering as respect. Maximum respect. All the respect. Other students erupted in their own species-specific ways. The Quellon in the 4th row was making a high-pitched whistling sound that indicated extreme excitement. A group of Zephyrians were clicking their faceplates in rapid synchronization, creating a sound like aggressive applause. 2 Vrin in the back clasped arms, and started chanting something rhythmic that the translators wisely chose not to interpret. Jex, the teaching assistant, had fainted. He lay on the floor near the control panel, his antenna drooping sadly, a small puddle of stress sweat forming around him. Nobody noticed. Everyone was too busy losing their minds. At least a dozen students had their datapads out, fingers and claws and manipulator appendages flying across screens as they ran calculations. Numbers appeared, were recalculated, appeared again, weight-to-strength ratios that should not be possible for a bipedal creature of Rebecca's mass, physics that did not make sense according to everything they had been taught. "This is impossible," one student muttered, staring at his screen. "I literally just watched it happen," another replied. "The numbers do not work out." "Then the numbers are wrong." Meanwhile, other students were already uploading the video footage. 17 different recordings from 17 different angles, each one showing the same impossible thing. Within seconds, the first uploads hit the Galactic net. "Human does the impossible," professor speechless. Student lifts apex predator, casually insults school gym. Teacher instantly regrets everything, a comprehensive documentation. "You will not believe what this human just did. Number 4 will shock you." Some things were universal across all species apparently, including clickbait. Kril'va, watching his credibility crumble in real time, tried to regain some semblance of control. His voice came out higher than usual, with a slight tremor that he desperately hoped nobody would notice. Everyone noticed. Now, class. Let us not get carried away," he stammered, his face plates clicking nervously. "What we just witnessed was, proper technique. Yes, and optimal leverage, and the controlled conditions, the sedated specimen, the complete and total destruction of your entire thesis," Rebecca offered helpfully from the back row. Kril'va's eye stalks swiveled to focus on her. "I would not say." "I would," Rebecca interrupted, pulling out her own datapad. "I have been in your class for 3 weeks now, Professor. I have also read your published papers. All of them, going back 6 years. Specifically your paper titled, Comparative Analysis of Muscular Efficiency Across Sapient Species, published in the Journal of Xenobiology, Volume 42, Issue 7. Kril'va's faceplates went very still. That was his most cited work, his pride and joy. Page 17, Rebecca continued, scrolling on her datapad. You state, and I quote, "Human muscular tissue demonstrates efficiency ratings below galactic standard, with force generation approximately 60% of the baseline established by Plixian subjects." End quote. Yes, and that is based on rigorous testing of sedentary human subjects in low-gravity stations, Rebecca finished. Your sample size was 12 humans, all of them office workers who had been living in 0.6G environments for over a year. You then extrapolated that data to represent the entire human species. The class had gone quiet again, but this time it was the quiet of students sensing that they were about to learn something important. Datapads reappeared. Notes were taken. Rebecca stood up and suddenly she was not a student anymore. She was a lecturer. Earth's gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. That is approximately 1.35 times what most species consider standard or comfortable gravity. Humans do not just live in that gravity, we evolved in it. Our entire skeletal structure, our muscle density, our cardiovascular system, everything about our biology is built to operate under constant resistance that most species would consider a workout. She walked down toward the front of the class and students turned to watch her. When I woke up this morning, I experienced the equivalent of a full-body resistance exercise just getting out of bed. When I walk to class, I am doing the equivalent of a weighted march. When I pick up a glass of water, my muscles are firing against a force that is, to most of you, unnaturally high. Thorok was frantically taking notes. So was everyone else. We are not stronger than you because we have better muscles, Rebecca continued. We are stronger than you because our planet has been trying to crush us our entire evolutionary history. We are still here. We are biological weightlifters by default. She paused, glancing around the room. Also, just for the record, I am not even that strong by human standards. I go to the gym 4 times a week. Basic routine. There are humans who could lift twice what I just lifted. Competitive powerlifters, strongman athletes, people who train specifically for this. I am just, reasonably fit. In the front row, a Plixian raised a shaky hand. How much can the strong ones lift? Rebecca thought about it. Well, the human deadlift record is a little over 500 kilograms. That is about 1,100 pounds. One guy. With training. Someone's datapad clattered to the floor. Nobody picked it up. Kril'va had not moved. He stood perfectly still, all 4 arms hanging limp, his face plates locked in an expression that might have been shock or horror, or existential crisis, possibly all 3. His worldview, carefully constructed over decades, had not just been challenged, it had been casually demolished by a sopho with a gym membership. By the time Rebecca showed up for the next Xenobiology lecture, the video had 40 million views across the galactic net and was still climbing. 40 million beings from dozens of species had watched a human casually squat an apex predator like it was a piece of gym equipment. The comments section had devolved into chaos, with half the viewers insisting it was fake and the other half doing increasingly frantic math. Rebecca's student inbox had exploded. 3 different protein supplement companies had sent endorsement offers. NutriBlast Supreme wants you to represent the power of human strength. Another message, from someone claiming to be a talent agent, suggested she consider a career in professional athletics. The Xenobiology department itself had sent a politely worded request, asking if she would be willing to guest lecture on human physiology, with a stipend attached that was more than her current scholarship. She had declined most of it. She was here to get a degree in exobiology, not become famous for being able to lift heavy things, though she had kept the protein supplement offer on file. Free protein was free protein. When she walked into Lecture Hall 7, the room went quiet. Then Thorok, who had apparently been waiting for this moment, stood up and started a slow clap. Within seconds, half the class had joined in, creating a cacophony of clapping, clicking, whistling, and various other sounds of approval from species who did not have hands. The human returns, Thorok bellowed. She who lifts the unliftable. She who makes professors question their entire careers. It is just me, Thorok, Rebecca said, sliding into her usual seat in the back row. There is no just about you anymore, Rebecca Dawson, Thorok declared. You are legend now. I have appointed myself your official chronicler and hype man. When you walk across campus, I will follow 3 steps behind, telling all who will listen of your mighty deeds. Please do not do that. I will do exactly that. He did, in fact, do exactly that. For the next week, Thorok followed Rebecca around campus like an 8-foot-tall, extremely enthusiastic herald. "Make way," he would announce to random passers-by. "Make way for the lifter of beasts, the bender of reality, the human who proved physics wrong." "Physics is fine, Thorok. I did not break physics. You made Professor Kril'va turn colors not found in nature. You broke something." Other students, emboldened by the video, had started approaching the small human population on campus with questions. What were their training rituals? How did one achieve such strength? Was there a ceremony involved? Did it require meditation, sacrifice, a pilgrimage to a sacred mountain? "We just, go to the gym," one confused human tried to explain to a group of very serious Quellon students who were taking detailed notes. "The gym," one of the Quellon repeated reverently. "A temple of strength." "I mean, kind of. There are mirrors, and sometimes the music is too loud and someone is always hogging the squat rack, but sure, temple works." Rebecca, meanwhile, was just trying to get through her coursework. She showed up to class in athletic wear because she had gym sessions scheduled between lectures. The aliens interpreted this as battle armor. When she pulled out her protein shake, a thick mixture that smelled vaguely of chocolate and determination, students leaned away slightly, eyeing the container with suspicion. "What is that?" a Plixian asked, nervously. "Protein shake. Want some?" "Is it a combat enhancement serum?" "It has got whey protein and some creatine and tastes like chocolate, so kind of." The Plixian declined. Later, Rebecca found a thread on the campus forum titled "Human Combat Serum. Analysis and Safety Concerns." During a study group, Rebecca mentioned she needed to leave early for leg day. 17 students immediately opened their datapads and added leg day to their notes, filing it under important human rituals, purpose unknown. "What is leg day?" someone finally asked. "It is when you work out your legs. Squats, deadlifts, lunges, that kind of thing. You have a specific day dedicated to strengthening your locomotive limbs." "Well, yeah. You do not want to skip leg day." Phils was written down, highlighted, starred for importance. "What happens if you skip leg day?" Rebecca thought about how to explain this. "Your upper body gets bigger than your legs and you look weird. So it is about honor." "Sure, honor, we will go with that." The humans on campus were rapidly discovering that they had become objects of fascination. Everywhere they went, students from other species watched them with a mixture of respect, curiosity, and mild fear. Someone started a campus club called Understanding Human Physical Capabilities, which mostly consisted of non-humans watching workout videos and being alternately amazed and horrified. Professor Kril'va, for his part, had been conspicuously absent from his own lectures. A substitute professor, an elderly Wren named Tokmar, had taken over. When asked where Professor Kril'va was, Tokmar had simply said, "Oh!" He is on sabbatical, reconsidering some things, many things, possibly everything. 3 weeks after the incident, Kril'va finally returned to campus. He looked different, smaller, somehow, though he had not actually changed in size. His faceplates were arranged in an expression that his species rarely wore, humility. He found Rebecca in the library, surrounded by datapads and looking absolutely exhausted from a biochemistry exam. "Miss Dawson," he said quietly, his voice lacking its usual theatrical boom. "May I have a moment of your time?" Rebecca looked up, surprised. "Professor, you are back." "Yes, I have been doing some thinking, some significant thinking." He shifted awkwardly, all 4 arms fidgeting with each other. "I have been teaching xenobiology for 23 years. I thought I understood human physiology. I was wrong, spectacularly, publicly, and thoroughly wrong. To be fair, your sample size was pretty limited." "That is kind of you to say, but no. I was arrogant. I made assumptions based on incomplete data and then defended those assumptions rather than seeking truth. That is not science. That is ego." He paused, his faceplates clicking nervously. "I am revising my course materials. All of them. I would very much appreciate your help, if you are willing to provide it." Rebecca closed her datapad. "Sure, Professor. I can help." "Thank you. He hesitated. I have one more request. You mentioned that you are not particularly strong by human standards, that you simply go to the gym regularly. I would like to understand what that means, practically. Rebecca smiled slowly. You want to come to the gym with me? If that is acceptable, yes. One condition. Kril'va braced himself. Name it. You actually have to work out. No, just observing. You participate. Kril'va's faceplates went through several colors before settling back to his normal greenish-gray. I accept your terms. Which was how, 2 days later, Kril'va found himself standing in the campus gym at 6 in the morning, wearing specially modified athletic clothing, staring at a barbell loaded with 20 pounds. This is a deadlift, Rebecca explained, demonstrating with her own bar which had significantly more weight on it. You grip the bar, keep your back straight and lift with your legs. The key is form. Do not try to muscle it up with your back or you will hurt yourself. Kril'va approached the bar like it might explode. And this is what you do regularly. 4 times a week, yeah. For enjoyment? Well, also for health and strength, but yeah, some people find it fun. Kril'va found this concept deeply confusing, but he was here to learn. He bent down, wrapped 2 of his 4 hands around the bar, and attempted to lift. The bar came up about 3 inches before his arms started shaking. He set it back down, his faceplates flushing with effort. Good, Rebecca said encouragingly. That is a good start. Try again, but remember to breathe. In when you go down, out when you lift. From across the gym, a familiar voice boomed out. The professor trains. Thorok came bounding over, wearing a tank top that said gains are eternal in 7 languages. This is excellent. I love this. We are all getting stronger together. Thorok, it is 6 in the morning, Rebecca said. Gains do not sleep, Rebecca Dawson. Gains are eternal. This is why it says so on my shirt. For the next 45 minutes, Rebecca coached Kril'va through basic movements. Deadlifts, goblet squats, supported rows. She kept the weight light and focused on form, correcting his posture gently, explaining the purpose of each exercise. Thorok provided enthusiastic commentary and encouragement, which mostly consisted of him yelling, "Yes, Professor," every time Kril'va successfully completed a rep. By the end of the session, Kril'va was exhausted. His arms trembled. His legs felt like jelly. He was pretty sure he had discovered muscles he did not know he had, and all of them hurt. He also felt oddly accomplished. How do you feel? Rebecca asked, handing him a water container. Like I have been in a fight with gravity and lost, Kril'va admitted, but also strangely good. That is endorphins. Your body releases them after exercise. It is like a reward for working hard. Fascinating. Kril'va drank deeply from the container. You do this 4 times per week? At least. Sometimes 5. And you were lifting how much weight when you started? About what you are lifting now, actually. Maybe a little less. Everyone starts somewhere, Professor. The key is consistency. Kril'va looked at the 20-pound bar, then at Rebecca's bar, loaded with considerably more weight, then back at his own. I have a very long way to go. We all do. That is kind of the point. She walked over to his bar and added 2 small plates to each side. Let us try 25. See how that feels. Kril'va stared at the additional weight like it had personally insulted him, but he bent down, gripped the bar and lifted. It came up slower than before, but it came up. Excellent form, Professor, Thorok bellowed. You are a warrior now. As Kril'va set the bar down, breathing hard, contemplating the life choices that had led him to this moment, Rebecca had a thought. She said it out loud, not really to anyone in particular, just musing. You know what is funny? The galaxy spent so long assuming humans were weak because we look soft, smooth skin, no natural armor, no claws or fangs. We do not look dangerous at all. She added another plate to Kril'va's bar while he was not looking. But nobody thought to ask why a species from a high-gravity death world might evolve to look non-threatening. It is not weakness, Professor. It is efficiency. We do not need to look dangerous because we do not need to advertise. Our strength is not in spikes or armor or obvious physical threat. It is in the fact that we carry our own weight, literally every single day of our lives, and we do not even think about it. She smiled, watching Kril'va eye the newly loaded bar with a mixture of determination and dread. We do not look dangerous because we do not need to. Thorok raised his protein shake in salute. This is wisdom. I am writing this down. Kril'va approached the bar again, positioning himself carefully, remembering everything Rebecca had taught him about form and breathing and engaging his core. He lifted. The bar came up. His arms shook, but he held it. Good, Rebecca said. Now do 4 more. Kril'va made a sound that the translator interpreted as a groan but might have been a laugh. You are going to kill me. Nah, Rebecca said cheerfully. Just make you stronger. There is a difference. As the early morning light filtered through the gym windows, 3 beings from 3 different worlds worked out together, all Viren warrior, a Zephyrian professor and a human student, lifting weights, building strength, learning. Somewhere on the Galactic net, the video of Rebecca lifting the Krathax had just hit 100 million views. But in that gym, at that moment none of them cared. They were too busy with leg day.